Horsey of TopVelocity.net. Wanted to do another pitching velocity tip for you in this video. Before we do that, I just want to ask you to subscribe if you can to the videos. I got a lot more coming out. I just want to make sure that you get the latest notice of all this new information that'll be coming out. A lot of guys ask, hey, where do I get all this information? I'm lucky enough to be a consultant for a major league team, so I have to look at video a lot, pretty much every day, and break it down to very specific moments and positions and angles and stuff like that. So I have a very good understanding of where these high velocity pitchers sit at all times in the delivery. And then also I read tons and tons and tons of research to understand the science and how that all applies to those movements. So that's where all this information comes from. And like I say, I'm just a messenger. At the same time too, I did play professional baseball, overcame major rotator cuff surgery to take my ball speed from the mid-80s to the mid-90s. And that's what I developed my programs off of. But since then I've been involved into coaching, researching, and studying the delivery. But today I wanted to talk about the trunk position. Now I've talked about it before. I've talked about it at front foot as far as a contralateral tilt to ipsilateral tilt, which is tilting to the glove side or tilting to the throwing arm side. I want to talk about the other direction. I want to talk about tilting back to the rubber or forward tilting to the plate, specifically in the strike, because I see some big problems in low velocity pitchers not understanding how their trunk orientation can really affect their arm path. All in all, guys, the trunk is everything. The trunk goes early, we typically lose power. I mean, it's up the chain, so the legs is where we generate power, but it's the legs are generating the power to move the trunk. The more dynamic the trunk, the more the arm is along for the ride, the less the arm has to work, and the harder we throw, and the healthier it is, and all that. So the trunk is very important in delivering the energy from the hips and legs to the arm. So we got to make sure that it's doing everything that we need it to do. So when, as far as talking in this video, not talking the contralateral to ipsilateral, which is very important too, you can watch another video, but talking about getting too far back towards the rubber, dip back towards the rubber, and then how that pertains in getting a good forward trunk tilt, because we know studies show more forward trunk tilt into external rotation typically are high velocity pitchers. So, and if we watch guys, if we start in the delivery, we come to our leg lift, and we watch high velocity pitchers, they typically start pretty earlier than low velocity pitchers leading with the hips, and they lead very well with the hips. But once they break with the hips, two things typically happen. We'll see a pitcher, I was watching Donald Ventura in the series right now, and he's a guy who breaks really hard and does get a good dip in the shoulders, okay? But he's a very high velocity guy. Then you'll see guys, who am I thinking of? I don't know, someone like Josh Beckett coming to mind, who stays very much vertical with his hips and doesn't dip the shoulders well. So what works? The problem is, they both can work, but they also, one of them I feel can really hurt you. The one dipping back can really hurt you, even though I like leading with the hips, and I'm fine with the guy doing that, but if you do not correct your trunk position in front foot strike, we have a problem. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. If you're that guy who breaks with the hips, and you get linear, and you kind of, and your trunk angle really starts to dip back and point up, then you got to make sure that at front foot strike, when you hit front foot, everything has gone more vertical, mainly for the purpose of rotation. We don't rotate until front foot strike. That's when all the rotational, all the transverse forces start to begin and coil up, and then they launch back into another linear movement or back into a sagittal forward trunk movement. But if we're going to really maximize the rotational torque, which is so important to accelerating forces, we have to make sure the body's in a good position to maximize torque, and that's going to be in a more vertical trunk position. I mean, you're going to be tilted to your glove side, but we're not talking about that. I'm just saying we never want to be still back at that point, because this is what happens. If I'm a guy who lifts the leg, leads with the hips, dips the shoulders, and then I get to front foot strike and I'm still back here, now how is my shoulders going to rotate? They're going to want to rotate and do this, and then I'm throwing the ball up. They're not going to want to rotate and then come forward, so you're going to really, really limit and hurt the rotational aspects of the delivery. So you could be a guy who's got a great stride power, peaking forces, triple extending, but the shoulders aren't getting to a vertical position of front foot, and therefore your power isn't being converted into the trunk and into the ball. For example, I typically see guys who don't get into those vertical positions with the trunk, and they're all the way back here. Their arms typically drag through because there wasn't really that quick rotational release where the arm wants to pop up and horizontal or in shoulder abduction into maximum external rotation. So if that's you, if you find yourself in front foot strike and you're still back here, there's nothing you can do to fix your arm. You can try to throw your arm up and come over. It's not going to work because you've slowed down the shoulder speeds and you've put your arm in a position where this is actually 90 degrees. So if you wanted your arm to get to 90 degrees and go into good external rotation and you're dipped back, this is 90 degrees. So it's going to come through, it's going to want to drop as you go into shoulder rotation. You actually lose that adducted position, which is so important to ball speed. So we have to make sure that through the stride going into front foot, that the shoulder, this all goes vertical, okay? And then the arm is at 90, but now more lined up with the shoulders because it isn't so dipped back, even in a 90 degrees of abduction, but because it's so dipped back, it's stuck underneath the shoulders and possible for it to come up and externally rotate and allow the trunk to move forward. So, you know, what's the fix? Is it just telling yourself I can't land like this? No. What it really is I believe guys that are more explosive through their strides, specifically picking up their speeds closer to front foot strike, they tend to want to go vertical because that's the body preparing itself to receive the torque, to receive the load. It knows it's not going to receive it well back here. So if you really got some speed and power going into front foot strike, everything's going to want to get upright, specifically knowing that you're going to stop and take the trunk forward. It definitely wants to get in that position as opposed to be back here. So I really believe this is the guy who's kind of falling off the mountain and not accelerating, and he gets stuck and he doesn't convert well at all into pitch release. So that's strictly a point to pop out for you to look at. Slow down your video. If you see yourself here at front foot strike, it's not don't start there. It's learn to pick up speeds, or maybe don't dip so much, but it's learn to really pick up speeds so it all wants to get ready and receive that torque and get vertical in the front foot strike, and we see all those good trunk positions. So once again, if you're this guy right here, okay, that's fine. Just make sure you peak and become this guy right here, so that trunk wants to go from here to there when you at front foot strike to really convert all that power to torque and into forward trunk jump. All right, so that's a pitching velocity quick tip. I hope you guys like these videos. If you do, like I said, subscribe, and I'm going to have a ton more coming out for you. So keep working hard and keep throwing harder.